Hey everyone. So we're here again today, and we know that we didn't release a video, but we're continuing our conversation that we had last week on Saturday about AI, and also now we have a programmer with us to talk a little bit more in depth about, programming AI and everything else that goes along with it. So if any of you want to, comment in the chats and have any disagreements with us, feel free to do that. And we have some more information, and we've done some more research on the topic. So we'll probably be able to give you a better conversation than we did last week.
Yeah, and I think probably just to start out, part of the reason that we thought it was interesting to follow on this topic was, first of all, we had the opportunity to get Paul to spend a little bit of time with us and share some other aspects of AI. Sometimes it focuses on the ominous and the dark side of it, and the positive side is mostly visible to people through just using, say, something like ChatGPT. But there's a lot of industrial, intellectual, technological operations that are being done around the world, incorporating AI to multiply the productivity of individuals. And that's what Paul is going to kind of demonstrate as well as, discuss with us here. Another little thing I just wanted to say is that we haven't posted a video in a little while because there's been a little bit of a family situation. One of our family members had some illness that had to be dealt with, and it's none of us. But nevertheless, it has been somewhat time-consuming and a little bit distracting because obviously family comes first. So I also want to say to all of our viewers who are at Dartmouth, thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for all the help. You've been wonderful. Now, what I wanted to sort of cover here is partially the ethics involved with AI, some of the philosophy behind what we're going to do as this is rapidly developing as a technology. And because, just like, say, nuclear engineering, there is a dark side and a positive side. We have boom devices. We have, on the other hand, nuclear power and medical treatments that are performed with atomic or nuclear engineering. And I don't think anybody would deny that there's a definite positive side to that technology. But I think AI has even more potential down and upside than even something like nuclear engineering. And because it's rapidly evolving, it's hard to keep track of where it's going. Just you can tell with ChatGPT and Grok and any of the other AI systems how they're becoming more sophisticated, smoother, more difficult to detect, and more comfortable. So people are adopting them and they're using them more and more. And the downside is that we become so dependent on them that information could potentially be manipulated, or it could influence us to do things that we wouldn't naturally do if we had the time to figure it out for ourselves. And so I think part of this series is to get people to start thinking on their own rather than becoming totally dependent on what's being sold or told to them, but to understand a little bit more about the philosophical development of this and maybe what we should do to develop intelligent questions so that we're not offshoring thinking, but we do some of the thinking ourselves. That's part of the philosophy behind a lot of the projects we do. I slip in a lot of principles in designing and demonstrating these projects because I don't want to just give you a recipe for building a jet engine or distilling. I want you to get the idea how it works, what's actually going on here, so that you can adapt some of this knowledge to things that you might be interested in. And then when you ask questions in the comments, you have a better idea of what actually is going on, so you can ask a more pertinent question and I can give you more useful information. And I think the same applies to AI. If we can get smart enough about what's being done and what its potential is, then we can ask the right questions when we get to the phase of having to either regulate it or limit it or monitor it as it becomes more and more integrated in our daily lives. So I can give you a little bit more of that. We'll get into the ethics and some of that as we go along. but I don't want to keep Paul sitting here and everybody wondering what the heck he's going to talk about. So I'm going to turn over the mic to Paul and let him sort of give you a little bit of insight into how he's begun incorporating this and just some general programming as well, because I think a lot of the people that watch our videos are pretty astute in areas that Paul has a lot of information about, and you'll find it interesting. So Paul, you want to take the mic and
Okay. So the thing is I was here, last time, and we talked a little bit about how I'm a programmer and how I love pure basic. I really like compiled, fast, efficient programming languages. And we were also talking a bit about AI. And so in this live stream, I've brought along with me some programs to demonstrate, and we can take a look at them. And there's several programs that I brought. Okay, so there's one in particular that is very pertinent because this particular program was written about 90 to 95% with ChatGPT AI. Okay, so it's called BRIX, and BRIX. And so what it is it's like this old DOS game.
Do you want me to pull it up now so people can see it in the...
You can start pulling it up, but I just want to finish my description of it.
Okay.
So,
yeah, fair enough.
It's based on an old DOS game. So what it's like is there's this grid of tiles, and it looks kind of like Tetris. Okay, and what you want to do is there's 4 different colors of blocks, and you want to find 3 blocks either in a row or going downward or in a cluster. And when you click that, they poof, they disappear, and the blocks above fall down, okay? And so I made that game 95% with ChatGPT, but I did have to do a little bit of my own, coding skill and debugging to make it work perfectly. But I did learn a lot of pertinent points throughout the process of making this program that I want to mention, what is the best way to use AI to write code, and how you can do it in the most efficient way with the least number of bugs.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Well, I was gonna ask too.
Okay.
If I can go first.
Yeah.
How does that compare to when you used to manually, years ago before AI?
Yeah.
When you used to program things, how has the AI helped you, or if there's any issues with it when you did the BRICS programming versus any early programming?
Okay, well, in terms of productivity, it's the change is extreme.
Well,
there's an extreme acceleration of productivity, right? So, this game, in the past, it probably would have taken me a total of maybe 12 to 24 hours to make, I would guess.
Okay.
But now with ChatGPT, I've cut that time down to a quarter or a third of that. Okay. And I think, honestly, if I were to do the same exact program again, the same game again with ChatGPT, I could do it way quicker now.
So
I
there's
could
a
probably
learning curve even in what you're doing, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not so much a learning curve as it is applying certain principles to the questions that you ask, how you ask those questions, and what order you do things in that can really accelerate things versus not. And so I learned throughout the process of making that program that there's certain things that you can do to make it better.
The question I had is kind of related to that. It's if somebody came in to do what you did, would they have to have the same basic skills that you have that, in theory, they could write this, they just have to spend 12 to 24 hours to do it? Or does it actually allow you to bridge and take somebody like me with very minimal programming skills, almost none, and would I be able to sort of bridge those areas that I just don't comprehend? Or do you really kind of have to know what it's doing and then tell it where to go?
Yeah, okay, so what I would say is for somebody like you, it really would allow you to make a particular game pretty quickly.
Wow.
But there's a big caveat. If it's a game that is already something that people know and there's a description of it and stuff like that. So, for example, say you wanted to make a new game of Pac-Man,
Okay.
or a new game of Tetris, or
Right.
something like that. Trivial, right?
Right.
It's like you could just give it the description that you want, and it'll pump it out for you.
Okay.
And you wouldn't have to be a programmer.
Right.
It's like, I mean, you have to understand how to use a compiler and how to use an IDE,
Right.
you know, to actually compile that and produce an EXE.
Right.
Because, see, the
Executable
ChatGPT,
file, right.
the ChatGPT will only give you the code, but it won't actually generate for you an EXE.
Okay.
So you still have to be able to do that process.
Okay.
But doing that takes you 10 seconds.
Well, can I interrupt that? Because I have tried, even though it's like rudimentary.
Yeah.
I have tried multiple times back with when I was first using ChatGPT to get it to, and I would type in the prompt that I wanted.
Yeah.
Create the classic game of Space Invaders.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I did that multiple times, either trying to get it to use Pure Basic or C++
Okay.
or Notepad++ for different, like whatever language that it thought was most suitable for
Okay.
it. And it did come up with it, and
Okay.
it got it to work. But there were a couple times where certain things wouldn't work right, where like menu
Yeah.
systems would glitch and
Okay.
it wouldn't work right. But the idea that it got was right, and
Yeah.
I was able to compile it
Yeah.
and actually play the game, and it was like, oh, this is kind of fun, but then glitch. So it's not perfect, but
Yeah.
I think for someone like Eric
Yeah.
might be able to get there if you ask, how do I compile this,
Right.
this
Yeah.
script
Right.
that I got already?
Right.
Well-
and that's exactly what I was saying, is that, like, you know, if there's a game that's like a classic Space Invaders or whatever, something that already exists,
Yeah.
it's like that, you know, I would be able to show him how to do, you know, really quickly, right? But if you're trying to develop your own game that has its own principles, its own style, and all that kind of stuff, you really do still have to be a programmer.
Where you have to be able to at least mess with the basic code that even it gives you. Like you can't like keep giving it
Got it.
information and it keeps modifying it.
Well, see, that leads me
Is it-
to some of the things that I learned throughout the course of making the thing. But what I'd like to do, though, is first
Show
take a
bricks?
look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you
Yeah,
show
I
it? Because I've
think,
got a couple more questions, but they can hold.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can make this easy. And sorry, guys, because of how I have to show this, I'm going to have to do a display capture here so you can see the window. Here, whoops. So this window is going to show the game, but I have to switch it to this. So you're going to see us, and you're going to see OBS Studio. Sorry about that. And then I'll run bricks. All right.
Okay.
So I have bricks here now. So score and everything, and I'm guessing you have to get... It's almost like...
Yeah, you can hear it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can hear this. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you can, if you get the audio through here.
Yeah, it does that when you get a really good one.
Yeah,
I
somebody's
hope
gonna
they can
comment.
hear it.
I'm not sure if they can. If anybody chat if they're hearing that.
Just keep
The
playing
wow.
so that it keeps playing.
Yeah, any sound effects if you can hear that.
Do a big one. Do those blue ones down. Yeah.
Are you guys hearing that?
They say, yeah.
Audio
okay.
is hot.
Cool.
We can hear it. Oh, okay, great.
Okay. Yeah, wow. They said wow. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
actually,
Okay.
kind of, I could play this for a little.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Focus.
Yeah. Okay. So, point is, so I can't move the mouse outside.
Yeah,
of
right.
here.
That's a
Right.
thing of it.
Yeah.
But
What was the reason for that, though?
it's just the way the game engine works. It traps the mouse inside of the game because it assumes that if you're playing the game, you're going to stay
Full
inside
screen
of there.
anyway, yeah.
I don't know why. I guess it's probably because normally in full screen mode it would do that. But then if you're running it in a window, it doesn't know that, like, you don't want that to happen when it's in a window.
Okay.
It's just a peculiar thing.
Now, is there any goal to that? I'm just actually kind of interested. Like, what?
Yeah, so what you want to do is kind of like think ahead. You know, like it's kind of like chess in a way, where
Okay.
you want to like look and see like, okay, if I collect those particular blocks that are, you know, all the same color in that area, if I do that, then I know the ones that fall are going to form an even larger group, right?
Got it.
So there
Okay.
is a strategy to it.
I got
right?
it. Yeah, okay. Like if I got rid of, oh, no, I didn't do it right. But I
so the-
understand your point.
The goal is to have as few blocks left at the end of the game as possible.
If I could, Paul, just
Yeah.
a question about sort of the copyright situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you could, like you said, a known game that's out there and, you know, maybe even purchasable, if you ask ChatGPT to essentially reproduce an existing copyrighted
I can't
game,
answer that question. I don't know. I don't know the rules of copyright when it comes to AI. You know,
one
I'm
of the
not like
one
a
of the
legal
people from
expert.
last week had commented that there are some sort of loose standards that said that if it's primarily human creativity and AI is considered to be, quote, a minor component in the development, then it remains patentable because an entity can't patent it. It has to be a human being. And I think that makes some sense, but the problem is, how do you verify what percentage work you did versus how much work the AI system did? And my concern would be that you could reproduce existing games or existing movies or existing entertainment, anything, and not just follow the same pattern, but literally make it unrecognizable so that nobody would know who's actually got the patent. You could have these, you know, AI farms from overseas producing hundreds and hundreds of illegal copies of something that aren't copyrighted. Who are you going to arrest? Who are you going to sue? And so I would think the copyright part of this would be a meaningful consideration when you're not just working for a company and you're developing some sort of, you know, machine control system or something nobody cares. But when it's something marketed on its own, you would think copyright would be a significant issue with more and more sophisticated AI, because it's a lot cheaper to have you working for 4 hours rather than working for 24 on something. I don't know. It's something for people to think about, and I'd appreciate if anybody out there is an AI programmer that has experienced that. It might be interesting to get some feedback, because I think that's going to be a meaningful restriction on its implementation. But anyway, just my thought. Sorry.
Well, I would say I don't think there is an issue with the copyright stuff because so many companies use, you know, AI to generate new things. It's like even if you like say two humans, one person paints a picture and another person sees that picture and they try to copy it because they think it looks good, but
Right.
they don't do it exactly like that. Did they get sued for copyright? It's
Yeah.
like, well, maybe trademark infringement,
Right.
Maybe at
or
that
you go to
point.
court.
But
you know.
yeah, right. But I really don't think that's going to be an issue. But maybe it's the case.
Well, there's a big purge on YouTube. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but they purged a lot of AI-based channels recently, like 100,000, some huge number. And I think there is some argument for that, because you're filling up the market, you're filling up the digital space with a bunch of stuff that nobody had to put any work into, and you're just flooding it with AI-created content. And whether it's good or bad, it's
Sure.
like, what about the rest of us that are actually putting the time in to actually develop
Well,
something?
I agree with that being a problem, but I don't see that as being a legal copyright problem.
No,
It's
maybe.
like it would be the platform's problem is saying this is getting too flooded. We have to, you know, crack down on it.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with whether it's an actual like legal copyright.
No, and I agree. It's kind of like YouTube makes this internal decision, and they're free to do that. They have the power. They're the platform. They can
Yeah.
decide what they want to do. They don't have to sue the people that put it up. They just say, you're out of here. So I can see why there is this pressure, even
Yeah.
if it doesn't raise to the level of going to court. So anyway, I
Sure.
thought
Yeah,
it was
I
an
get it.
interesting take.
And then Paul, I can bring up the code if you want me to show this.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, do
so
that.
I'll put this on this screen, and then hold on, guys.
Sure.
Let's see if we can do display capture. I have to switch the monitor. All right. So up here, and this is the code for bricks, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, he's got that up there. I don't want to first talk specifically about that code, but I want to talk about the principles that I learned throughout using AI, you know, to produce code.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I learned some like important things that I think, are pertinent. So anyway, the first thing that I learned is that if you're making something that is very unique, maybe it's like for example, this Bricks game that I made, okay? Even though there is a DOS game called Bricks, it's very different than this game. It's almost a completely different game, okay? And so that being the case, if you're trying to make a game that's like a new game or it's just a very different thing, it's not just, say, a clone of Pac-Man or Space Invaders or whatever, right? In that case, what I've found is that you want to create as much detail in your first prompt as possible. So, like, you should, like, create an outline, maybe even on a piece of paper or, a notepad or whatever. Create an outline and create a list of all of the important features and points that the program needs to have. Instead of just sitting down and writing, say, a couple of paragraphs like, I want it to be like this, and, I want my game like this, and and it's just kind of like, when you do it that way, you're going to have to go back and forth a lot with the AI because what it'll produce the first time won't be that accurate. And so you'll then have to go back and forth a lot. And when you do that, it'll keep changing the code slowly over time. And by doing that, you're introducing more and more bug potential.
Got it.
Okay. So, yeah, so I found, sit down and make a, serious outline with a bunch of numbers or like a bulleted list or whatever, and make sure to detail every single aspect of the game that you're making, especially if it's something that's new, right? And yeah, so then the first result that it'll pump out will be almost exactly what you want, and that way you don't have to change too much stuff later.
Like
okay.
with human beings, what you would do is you'd lay out the general plan.
Yeah.
And then you would like dig deeper as you go along, because the people can evolve with you, but the AI doesn't forget. So it keeps that sort of initial messed up version sort of something you have to clean up. So it's the way
it's not the initial mess up. It is less likely to mess up because you have to keep coming back and adding additions to the code later.
Okay,
because it's
all right.
so, accurate in the beginning.
I'm misstating it, and I think you said it clearly. I was just trying to summarize it, but I think I actually messed it up by doing that. No, I get it, and I hopefully everybody else got it too. So ignore what I said, because I do think actually it made it more confusing.
So that's the first thing that I learned. That's the first point. And then the next thing that I learned is that because if you're dealing with a large enough game or program or whatever, you are going to have to come back and tell it to add something or change something or whatever. You are going to have to go back and forth several times. You're not going to be able to just do your first outline, get the code generated, and then you're done, right? So if you're going to keep coming back and adding more additions to the program and telling it additional features or whatever, another thing that I learned is that you should really like compartmentalize it. So like, for example, tell ChatGPT or whatever you're using, I'm using ChatGPT in this case, tell it, okay, I want a new function, like write a new code function or a new code method that does this, okay? Or tell it, modify this code function in the code that already exists, okay? And if you do that, you restrict the AI to only be modifying stuff within a particular function instead of going through and just changing random stuff throughout all of your code.
Got it.
Okay, so it keeps it compartmentalized. And that way, you're less likely to introduce more bugs throughout the process.
How is that different from the way you would approach the problem as a human being, like when you normally would write? Do you approach it in your brain the same way, like you kind of get all the details right, and then you just look for segments that you want to modify slightly, and then you open up that page and modify it? Is that kind of how your brain does it?
Well, everybody has a different coding style, so it's like I think everybody does it a bit differently. But the way that I do it usually is not like that. Usually what I do is I just come up with a general idea in my head of what I want the game to be like, and I just start coding, right? I might have a bit of an outline, but I don't go into like a lot of detail. I figure out the detail as I go along.
Got it.
And so because of that, I found that, doing it with ChatGPT, I do kind of have to modify my behavior a bit in terms of how I'm programming.
Got it.
One thing I've been trying to focus on some of the comments here, but most of them are comments and not questions. But one thing that I saw here from Dirk, AI does a lot of the legwork. I'm not saying that's the case for you, but do you think that is probably the case for at least new programs that you might make and other programmers, where it's like they get this sort of baseline,
Format,
text,
yeah, right.
everything
Yeah.
that is there, and then you modify it? Or do you think it's better to start from scratch and not have AI do that?
No, I think it's good to start from scratch. I mean, it depends on how big your project is. I mean, if it's like a super, like large corporate piece of software or something like that, you probably want to start yourself. But if it's not too complex, I think it's best to start by making the detailed outline, feeding that to the AI, getting it to output the code, right? And
Okay.
then you go into the code and start modifying things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up another thought. What if you were doing a very, very large program that there would be several programmers that are working
Yeah,
on
right.
a particular project? How do you think that sort of like would interface with the AI as opposed to everybody sitting down or emailing each
That
other
would
about?
be different, I think. Yeah, if you were dealing with like a team or something like that, it's like then you probably would not, use the AI to just start out the entire code base.
Right.
It's like you wouldn't do it that way.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm talking about, code projects that are on the scale of like this game that I showed you, for
Right.
example.
If you
Yeah.
had a large program like that, like in corporate life or in real life,
Yeah.
pre-AI life is what I mean, would normally like multiple programmers be working sort of on parts, like you designate, okay, we've got like three major components to this program, what it's going to do. You, and I each take like certain segments and we try to perfect it, or do they sort of like lay it out, like just how is a really big program written when you have multiple people each trying to sort of do their thing, at home, at work, they're trying to figure
Yeah,
stuff
well,
out.
I'm not the expert on this because most of the time I write my code projects alone or
Right.
with very few people.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't deal with very large teams, but there's Git,
Yeah.
and that's what GitHub is about. It's for working, collaborating with programmers, and
Right.
then also really large programs are split up into several different code files as well as different namespaces and code bases and stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, and
And
that's
so-
also, and like GitHub is open source type of thing.
Yeah.
But for collaboration, Eric, is what you're talking about.
It's
Things
also
like,
for that.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I know, I get that. But if you have a company with proprietary stuff,
Yeah.
just for example, like Adobe that I use for all the video editing, they have a sort of cloud model things and everything where you can collaborate with all of these other people that are building either this video or project or whatever, and all of this stuff is sort of integrated into some sort of cloud server versus you're just getting that information and using it.
It's like
You know what
local
I mean?
get.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was just going to try to say that.
Okay.
A lot of large software projects that are proprietary will still use Git. They just use Git internally. Okay.
Okay.
So
Fair
it's like
enough.
instead
Okay.
of using GitHub, it's like GitHub
Sure.
is where the open source stuff is.
Yeah, I
but
got it. Okay.
Git is a thing that's separate from GitHub.
Got it.
So yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know that. I thought there was only GitHub. Didn't know that. So with respect to this particular program, how long ago did you begin experimenting with an AI like interface, just trying it out on some programming and saying, oh, I wonder if it's going to work?
Year and a half to 2 years ago.
okay.
Probably a year and a half ago.
So kind
yeah.
of near the beginning of AI being able to do anything. 'Cause,
Sort of.
Yeah, it was.
Sort of ish.
Yeah.
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 But this is my first project, this bricks thing, is my first project where I decided to just tell the AI, okay, I want to make this kind of game, do it, and basically see what happens.
And it kind of worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty impressive.
So, did you want to Actually, wait a minute. We got a good comment. It's like an actual question. Does Pure Basic IDE have Copilot/whatever integration? So obviously,
No,
AI
it. I don't think
integration.
it does. I don't think Pure Basic has a Copilot thing. No, but I mean, I think you could write Pure Basic code in Visual Studio Code, which does have that. I'm pretty sure you could integrate the Pure Basic compiler into Visual Studio Code if you really wanted to.
Well, could you have Copilot do all of the coding and then
Well,
transfer it?
in that case, therefore, you could have Copilot do that.
So you would just transfer the code over, or like, what do you mean?
No, I'm saying
In
no. I'm
Visual
not
Basic,
okay
you mean.
Because I don't know
I'm not
much
sure
about it.
about this. Okay, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
But you could program your Pure Basic in Visual Studio Code instead of in Pure Basic's IDE. And then you could then use that Copilot feature or whatever of Visual Studio Code on your Pure Basic program.
Okay.
Right?
got
So,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
You just have to be able to go into the settings and make sure your compiler is set to, the Pure Basic EXE or PB compiler EXE or whatever it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
I
general,
I don't know
can
much
you-
about that, but
Could you?
it's like, yeah.
Would you believe? Maybe you haven't tried this yet, but do you think you could code in any particular language you are comfortable with, and the AI system could translate it into any other type of code, or would it be only compatible with like what it is now compatible, where you could use a converter in order to convert it to a different language? Could it just say, you want me to do this in some, Soviet era code or some like crazy code that nobody's familiar with? Could it translate the entire thing for you?
Yeah, it can translate code from one language to another language. Yes, it can absolutely do that. However, I have not really experimented much with that ability, so I don't know how good it is. But I think, ChatGPT's code generation ability is fantastic at this point, especially given that, Pure Basic, what I used in this case, is such a niche, small language.
True.
And it was still able to produce what I just showed.
Right.
So it's like that shows that it's like it could do way more in, say, Java or C++ or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then we got a comment, and thanks for the 100. Thank you, the cute AIO. I am somewhat experienced programmer. I like to see AI as a tool for when I get stuck. I try and write most of the code myself, thus keeping a balance of quality and haste. Thanks for the stream.
I agree. I agree with what he says. It's like if I was working on a serious project, I wouldn't just start out by telling the AI to do everything for me. I wouldn't do it that way. I would still, write the code myself and, then use AI to say maybe there's a certain algorithm or a certain function that I'm not exactly sure how I should implement. And so then I tell, ChatGPT, okay, write a function for this, right? And it's like, that's how I would prefer to do it. It's just that in this particular case, I'm just demonstrating the raw power and like the abilities that it has to just do everything for you, for somebody that doesn't know how to code much.
Would it be your guess that most people are like him and like you, where they sort of treat it as a tool, but not rely so much on it like somebody like me, that can't do anything? Do you think that that's probably kind of the industry standard at this stage? They're using it to augment what they can already do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So could we look at some of those other programs, Frank?
Yeah.
Unless
I would
there's
like
some
to.
chats that I should.
One chat. RYD. Thanks for the 5. I don't really know what you're trying to get at because you said, "Can I get in?" Thank you, gentlemen. Thank AIF for inserting in spaces. I had to copy and paste to even prov ideas as gibberish as
Okay.
I'm guessing you're trying to say something against AI.
Yeah,
but
right.
AI wouldn't say that. So
Yeah, right.
Good luck, but okay.
Right. Well, some of those images that I've got later, you'll see.
and
Well,
we'll show that.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
well, thanks for the 5, though.
Yeah,
right.
no, definitely thanks for it. But obviously, you're trying to make a joke.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So do you want to pull this back up, or do you want to pull up one of your? So this is the code that.
Well,
you had for
yeah,
bricks.
let's just scroll down a little bit in that code. We could just see. So at the beginning, okay, stop right there.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can see how I'll just give a little bit of an overview of like how the pure basic thing kind of looks. So it's like those elements in purple there that you see, those are constants, okay, and they're denoted with a hashtag. So you put a hashtag in front of it, and then you write like a variable name, right, and then equals, and then the value that you want. So that's a constant. Then below that you see a structure, right? So that's like a struct in C or C++, right? Can you roll
Yep.
a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah, so then we have a global variable, which is a list. It's a list type, and it's called vanishes, and it is of the structure vanish fx, right? So it's creating a new list out of that structure vanish fx, okay? And so, the AI produced all of this, all of this part so
really?
far. Yeah.
When did you start? Did you start inserting?
I
after
inserted
this,
that
or-
next part there where there's the description, like no more moves, press N for new game, all that stuff. So those are string constants, that shows text on the screen.
Got
You
it.
can keep going down. Those more global variables. More global. Okay, keep going. Okay, so there's the first procedure. Keep rolling a little more. You get that full procedure. Yeah, so there's init random board. So that procedure right there initializes the game board and sets up the grid that you have. And, of course, sets the score to 0 and the game over to 0. Yeah, and then there's, clamp 255. That just means that it restricts the values to no more than 255 or no less than 0, I believe. And then there's the RGB shading of the cubes, the blocks. So actually, this game does not use like a picture file, like a PNG or a GIF or a JPEG or whatever, for the blocks as like images. Instead, it generates it in the code. So this is the shading code for those little blocks that you see on the screen.
Can I just ask you, did you designate how it would demonstrate those, or did you give it a detail at the top and it chose to not use a GIF or some sort of like image for the block?
I told it that I wanted it to dynamically like generate the cubes in
Okay.
code
Okay.
instead of use a file.
That's the
Yeah.
detail you're talking about. You got to be very detailed
Yes.
in how you want it to do this step.
Right. I
Yeah.
think if I hadn't done that, it probably would have expected me to supply some sort of graphic image file or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, I can keep
So-
going.
Yeah, you can, but I think,
But, I think,
it's
yeah,
good
move
enough.
on-
They
move
get
on
the
to
gist.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's move on to a different program here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll leave that up. So not bricks.
Is that a new super chat or
Okay.
something, like a question while you're doing that?
No, that over there.
Yeah.
That's an old thing.
Okay.
So yeah, there's the list. Okay, which one should we look at next? I don't know if did you try Snow? I
I
did that
didn't try
one for
Snow,
like the
but I
Christmas spirit kind of feeling.
I don't know how it works though. Aspirin would be good, or this PEG SOL.
Okay, Peg Sol. Yeah. Well, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, let's do Peg Solitaire then. So what Snow is, it may end up messing up OBS, so we might not want to do that. But it's this thing where it just makes a bunch of snow cover up your entire screen, your entire desktop.
I
Yeah.
thought I tried that one.
Oh, did you? Before?
Yeah, maybe I get it wrong. Maybe I was. You were talking about Snow does
Yeah,
that.
Snow
yeah,
does
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
you'll do that
that.
one
Yeah, yeah.
instead so
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
don't glitch out or whatever.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to.
Okay, so
Yes,
here.
perfect. So I can put this up here. Yeah, everybody
Yeah,
should
okay,
be
they
able
can
to
see
that.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a game. This is not AI done. I'm just, at this point, I'm just kind of demonstrating the type of things that you can do with Pure Basic. This I wrote all myself like 3 years ago, whatever. So it's a game called Peg Solitaire. And it was a game that I really enjoyed when I first found it at like a restaurant. They had it for like passing time. They had like
Was
as
it
you were.
an Asian restaurant?
No, I don't know. It wasn't actually.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't. It was
'Cause
like
it
some
seems
sort
like-
of diner.
Oh, okay.
Some kind of diner. And so it's like they had this in the middle of the table to pass time as you're waiting for your food. And what the game is
Don't you
is
like how programmers like hobby? It's like a lot of people in their hobby time, they'll play the piano or they go play tennis or whatever. Programmers write programs for games.
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So
I
anyway,
like the sound effects.
yeah, you can hear the poop poop poop
Yep,
sound.
yep.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's like the point of this game is you jump over marbles, okay, and you remove the marble that you jump over, okay, and so you want to try to remove as many marbles from the game board as possible, okay. The blue ones, those blue things are marbles. The yellowish things, those are just empty holders for the marbles. It's meant to designate an empty space.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So what you do is you move your selector around the screen, and then you press the space bar.
I
okay?
almost say, I have to say,
Yeah.
that's actually because I almost intentionally did that, even though
Okay.
I haven't really played this.
So it's
I just
intuitively good.
I
Yeah.
ran this before, like just to make sure that these would work, like
Yeah.
on our screen, everybody. And I was my first instinct was spacebar and arrow keys.
Okay,
So,
that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Oh,
so
oops.
yeah, so you press
Didn't mean to.
space bar, and now press the arrow key to move it to jump over a marble. You can only jump over. Now those
Well-
ones on the edge, ignore those things. Okay, it's only the middle one is the empty space. Okay, the one right in the middle of the screen is the empty space. Okay, so those ones around the edge, those are just placeholders. Ignore that. Okay.
Okay.
So what you want to do is go to any marble where you could jump it and land on that center point. Okay?
Well, any of these then. Right?
Any of the ones that are not adjacent to it.
Not right adjacent to it. Like, no, not there. Like where you were before was perfect. There. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you want to press space and then the down arrow. See what happened? It
Oh,
moved
a
it to
winner.
the center and it removed the one that you went over.
Oh,
okay?
I don't-
You see what happens?
I don't like this. not saying your game sucks, but it's like it's like chess without knowing the rules. You know.
Okay.
It's like-
Well, it's not that hard. So now you
it is kind of like that. Come on.
it's not that hard.
What do the little ones do?
Okay. So now you get the gist. So you want to jump over. Okay. So that one you can't do anything with that one. Okay. Can't do anything there. Can't there you could do something.
Okay.
Yeah. See, Da gets it. There you go. Yeah. Up. Right.
Why did it make that bump?
Because that means you've done an invalid operation. It's like you can't move in that direction.
But it
See,
worked.
you
Though.
can-
It removed them though.
No, if it goes thump, it doesn't remove anything. That's an error sound. It's the Windows error sound.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that
no,
Now,
I
thump.
love that
Now,
sound.
while
yeah.
Alex is trying to figure out how to play this game, a
Well,
question
actually, before you do that,
Could I do it?
yeah,
Just-
you play.
Okay,
because
let me
I'm
show-
gonna be dumb at this. Yeah, and
Okay,
know,
I didn't
look
think
pathetic.
it was hard, but see,
Well, I
I
have
think
no
you'll
idea
get
what
the
the
gist.
rules were.
You'll get the gist in just a sec.
Okay.
So what it is see this one right here. See the point that I'm on right now, right there, that red
Yeah.
one. This one could jump to there. Oops, sorry, to there. Okay, or you could jump. Sorry, this one to there. Okay.
Okay.
So let's just, for example, do this one.
But
so
why
I'm gonna
can you
press-
go up and down though too? Why can you do
Because
that?
these are placeholders. These these
there's
are
one's
just
other
nothingness. I should have. That was a bad design. These ones in the corner should just show like an X or like something.
That they
they're
don't exist.
bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Like okay, they shouldn't be there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I get it now. Yeah.
So
okay.
it's only the central. These two right here, and then
Are the
this
only
one
ones.
up there.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
they're surrounded. Yeah. Got it.
So we can go like this, jump,
Let me ask
and
you
then like this,
a question
jump.
pertinent to this.
And then say like this, jump. Right? I just want to demonstrate it. Okay. Okay, what is
Okay.
it?
Play the game.
Here's the question. You said, yeah, probably it would be best to put those placeholders, like with little X's. In
Yeah,
there or something.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Say you
definitely.
decided to go back, the 3-year-old game or whatever.
Yeah.
And you decided to perfect it or correct that.
Yeah.
Would AI save you any time, or is that such a simple function?
No,
that's
that's
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It would take nothing.
Okay. So if you have games that, like, say, any of you programmers out there that have written games, and it's a simple fix, yeah, you can fix it yourself on your own time. But you could take AI to take the existing game, the existing code, and be able, with an accurate description up front, be able to have it perfect or correct a number of different features on the game. Isn't that correct? Like, it could fix
Yes.
your games.
Yes.
Without you having to go back and actually go through all the steps of code. It would find the specific code that addresses those by just giving a description of what you want to do.
Yeah. Like, but it's best to be more specific if you want it to work better, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Well, and I saw a couple comments here saying AI could play it better. It's like, yeah, it probably could.
If it
Yeah, okay.
couldn't, then you need to get the other AI, right?
Yeah,
Because-
yeah, they're smarter than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's pretty much it for this particular game. We could move on to the next one because we've got other stuff.
Well, and then
I want to
also,
do the aspirin game.
Sure, that would be fine. But Eric, if you want to do your sort of demo
Yeah.
of stuff,
Well, not
if
so much a demo,
not
because, see,
demo, but bring up like some of the topics.
One
that
of the
you
one
wanted
of the
to-
things that I noticed is in this last week I've been sort of running in and out of the house and doing some research, and I watched an interesting video that was posted by one of my favorite channels, Sabine Hassenfelder, and it covered the whole concept of AI itself and some of the ethics involved and some of the issues that we're going to be facing. And I pretty much agree with her. I would say 100%. I really think that she had an accurate idea of what I think we're going to be facing. And for any of you that are either watching this after the fact and are not watching it live, or you want to, after we're done, maybe take a look at it, it's a very short video. It's like 7 minutes long, and 5 minutes of it is really the content that really matters. But it kind of summarizes the concept of the idea that AI is not a simple number. One of the commenters last week had criticized me for not knowing the concept of singularity with my
The
astronomy.
singularity.
The singularity.
That's it. Could I, sorry, just interrupt you for
No,
just a sec?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the singularity is sort of like this thing that it's almost like a new agey kind of thing, but it's this thing that is about the idea of how through technology and developments with AI or just any kind of technological advancement, that eventually humanity will reach unity, like oneness. In other words, God, right? Like we will all become God, essentially.
Well,
I think
maybe that's why they use the word singularity, because I found that to be strange. When you look it up with respect to AI, the singularity is sort of the point at which AI equals human intelligence. If you look up in Wikipedia or
Okay.
whatever, it says that we're pretty much stable in our capabilities, but AI is rapidly developing more processing power, more memory, more inputs, and that at some point it's going to equal human intelligence. And the reason I had not understood that is because, like I said, I always think of it as black holes and, Planck and all this sort of thing. But ultimately, I think it's a really poor way to describe what's happening with AI, because it sort of identifies AI as intelligent or not. Is it intelligent? What the heck is intelligence? I mean, there's so many different aspects to intelligence. It's memory, it's data input, it's processing, it's extrapolation, it eventually becomes consciousness, and the rest of it. And the thing is, because AI is being developed, it is developing along different routes at different speeds. And so in some cases, it exceeds our capabilities. If you just think about memory and access to data, there's no human being that can access within a microsecond the world's knowledge base that the AI systems are capable of, and it doesn't forget. And so it's already exceeded us in that one narrow category. But in the area of, say, extrapolation or self-improvement or modification of capabilities, it's nowhere near where we are. And so as you pass this threshold of certain capabilities, the singularity will probably be a period in time at which AI has accelerated closely enough to human intelligence that it becomes either indistinguishable from human intelligence, which it's designed to do. If you listen to it, it's trying to imitate human beings, or it exceeds some of our capabilities and we become more and more dependent on it. And I think that's where a lot of the sort of the ominous side of the AI comes out, is because we're dependent on it, and it's designed to be sort of an imitation of human beings. It's a large language model based on the languages, whether programming or whether just verbal speech, that we have evolved over a long period of time, and we're writing the AI to interface with that. So it's sort of designed to be sort of like our offspring. It's not an alien that's landed from another planet. So the whole idea of AI developing capabilities that become greater than ours will be a period of time over which we don't notice until we're well past that, and we can say, well, we passed that at some point in the past, but we can't put a date on it. And I think one of the sort of issues that I think we have to deal with now is that because AI is becoming and developing so fast that it's hard for even a programmer like Paul to be able to be up to speed in all of its capabilities. They're changing weekly, monthly, and they're moving rapidly enough and accelerating that when we get into ethical, legal issues and all of the consequences, it's going to be very difficult for people to be able to monitor it or regulate it. We almost have to depend on AI to monitor other AI. And so she brought up a couple of interesting examples in the video, but I think we can kind of show you some images here. But AI, just in terms of being able to reproduce images and music and sounds, is so good that often people are unable to distinguish it from reality. That's why a lot of the AI YouTube channels were shut down. But in advertising, you don't have to pay an actor or an actress. You can essentially develop one out of the blue. And as a consequence, we decided to pull up some images. And I'm going to go through, I think, 4 different images. And as you look at these, we're not going to tell you until the end, but see if you can identify one of them is not real. This first is this woman's face and sort of a similar shot of this woman's face.
Yeah, I have it up here right now.
And I don't know if everybody can see it.
Yeah, they can see it now.
Okay. So everybody take a look at that and guess, which one you think. We don't need an input, but we'll go to number 2 and see if you can pull up another image.
And I just have to say, these are not the best of the best that you can get. These are fairly basic.
Found these in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That this is not like a perfect example. She gives a couple in her video that are pretty good too.
Yeah. And I just did this like a couple of minutes before we started the stream. So if you say, oh, well, I can tell so easily, it's like maybe you can, but not always.
And certainly not in passing. If somebody said, one of them is false, okay, maybe you're going to be a little bit more perceptive and you're going to look more carefully. See if you can pull up another one.
So that's number 1.
Number 2. Give them a few seconds. Number 3. And number 4. Now, I think most people will probably get a pretty good hit rate. I got one of them wrong. But the point is, let's say that this was in a moving image, or it was something on a screen in an airport, or it was part of a game or some sort of advertisement. You probably won't know. And that's at current status. That's at current levels. And obviously, it's improving very, very quickly. No doubt, within a few years, you're going to be almost always fooled. You won't be able to detect the difference. And I think, if you look at these, you might be a little bit surprised.
Right. So whatever it says real on there is the real one.
And how about the next one? Can you do that?
Trying. Yep. And it's hard to see on this one, but the right-hand one is the real one.
Right. It's down at the bottom in red, and if you're colorblind, you'll never see it. But basically, the point I'm trying to make, obviously, I've spoken about this, but the point is, with AI systems being developed like this, copyright, actors, musicians, programmers, anybody who does intellectual work or that can be transmitted to people without being in person is vulnerable to the development of AI systems. And competitive AI systems are developing so quickly that it's not like you can just look at one and say, okay, well, I will identify this because it's got the flavor of ChatGPT versus Grok. They're all so good that you're not going to be able to distinguish them. And one of the sort of like problems that she addresses, and I think is actually very key, is the concept of sentience, consciousness. If you develop a system that becomes sentient or conscious, is it ethical to turn it off? I mean, if you truly create something that is self-aware, what are you doing when you kill it or you shut down the power? You're actually destroying a consciousness. And you might think, oh, well, what do I care? But the thing that kind of brings it home to me is from my medical background. The idea that many people are aware that when you have a woman who's pregnant and she is attacked violently, either killed or hurt, and the fetus is lost, what happens is sometimes, and the laws vary from federal laws to various state laws and even common law, about when is it a murder, even if the woman doesn't die. And there have been a number of different standards, all the way from conception, all the way up to the idea of delivery but unable to nurse and the baby dies, post-delivery. But most of the laws in the United States focus around the idea of viability, which is roughly around 24, 25 weeks, where with modern technology, a baby can be saved or maintained outside of the mother. This also is very close to the time of the development of what we would probably consider to be sentience or consciousness. The thalamus and the cortex of the brain begin to develop their links sufficiently that sounds and vision and not smell, taste, touch, can actually get through to the cortex. And very close to that time, you begin to get some quickening. The baby will move a little bit inside the mother can feel it. That's fairly similar to some of the laws around the country as the development of sentience. But we still consider it murder in many places if the baby were to die long before that, before it's sentient, because it's both human and it's going to become sentient. And that's where we get into that gray zone. If it has the potential to become sentient, even if it isn't human, like say a dog, we still have laws against cruelty to animals. You can't be cruel. You can take your laptop and throw it in a dumpster. But take your puppy or your dog and do the same thing to it. And there are jurisdictions and there's laws that said cruelty to animals, you can be fined or punished for that. It's considered to be a bad move. Well, the AI systems may be very close to having that concept of sentience. If we don't define it tightly enough and analyze it well enough, we may in fact be looking at potentially harming another, if not living, conscious being. And I think we're on the cusp of this. We may not be there completely, but I think because of the softness of the singularity, we may be very close to the period where we're going to have to take ethical considerations into this sort of not life form, but this consciousness that we've developed. And that's, I think, something that we really need to start thinking about, because the discussions have to happen now. They can't happen after the fact. We may end up trapping ourselves in a ethical conundrum where there's no sort of good answer and everything is a bad answer. So I wanted to bring that up only because I think it is important that we deal with AI now and not wait till we discover it's a problem, because I think we still have a window of opportunity. And the fact that Paul and many other people, myself included, are so dependent on AI, we're becoming so tied into it that there's going to be a lot of resistance in holding back or modifying what we do as we develop it. And I don't know what you guys think about it, but it's one of the things that actually frightens me a little bit. I'm not sure where we're going with this, because at the same time, human beings are moving more toward the AI direction by being so dependent on our phones, our computers, the cameras around us. And
Sure, I get that. But I have...
okay.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a really important point that I was waiting for a while.
Yeah.
But the thing is so when you say sentience, it's like so you were talking about kind of almost like protecting the AI's sentience, that like eventually the AI would become sentient, and then those rules that apply to actual sentient beings would then should or could be applied to the AI as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's the important point of like, no matter how intelligent an AI gets, it can never be truly sentient.
Why?
Because it's always an algorithm. It's just a super complex algorithm. It could never feel, it could never taste, it could never touch. It could never understand that, like, feelings. Those things come from somewhere else.
Well,
they don't just come from neurons in our
That's a good
brain
point.
just firing off.
That's
don't.
That's a good point, but doesn't that start to pose some religious questions?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and
does.
the point is, it's like if we're just keeping this sort of like non-religious, non-supernatural, non-beyond what we can see and describe, I don't agree with you if we don't move to that level.
But I have an interesting point. See, it doesn't have to get religious in order to prove that that is the case. Because, see, here's the point.
All right.
See, it's kind of hard to articulate, okay? But, see, we don't know why we are us, right? You don't know why you are you. I don't know why I am me. He doesn't know why he is he, right? And so there is something external. There is something outside of this world that is tying us to us. There is some sort of tether, right? And that being the case, AI can never have that tether.
Well,
it can
if
never
that's
have
true.
that thing. There has to be another thing out there.
That's
Well,
assuming
you're-
there is a real tether, and
Yeah.
it's not just our fantasy that it's a
Yeah,
tether.
right.
We imagine that tether. Like, there isn't actually a string. So, like, what I'm trying to say, I'm not
Well,
trying
there
to be
might
facetious.
be, but we don't know whether there is.
Right, but let's take the scenario. If we don't know or can't see the tether, you could make an argument by saying our view of reality is sort of like the dream. It's like we think we know what's going on. I think I'm Eric. But my believing that may in fact be a fantasy. It may be that I've developed that dream, that fantasy, from the inputs that I've received and the knowledge that I have that creates this dream. Why couldn't a computer or a very sophisticated algorithmic system develop the same sort of dream fantasy that it is itself? It is ChatGPT.
Of course it
I
could.
completely agree, but
It could,
But it is also possible that one is wrong and one is right. So you might envision that for yourself, and it turns out you're right, and the computer is doing, or AI, whatever, is pretending to do the same thing, but it doesn't actually have this consciousness.
You mean our external view of it? It's pretending to us, like
Well,
it's
and ma-
pretending
well,
to be
maybe
sentient.
even to itself, couldn't it?
Well, then how is that different than it's like our thinking?
We don't know really whether it's actually true or not.
Right.
Like where this consciousness comes from, or
You can't prove it either way. Like, we can both have opinions about it and say, well, we don't know if it's true, but I think it's this way.
But I feel like I could prove my point of view. Because, see, thing is, okay, if our existence and our knowing of everything is all just, the synapses, the chemicals, the firing of the electrochemical signals in our brain, making us perceive, right? Well, you have the same thing going on inside your head, so does he. So then
Most
why...
of the time.
Right. Okay.
Well, sometimes I'm asleep.
Yeah, right.
No,
I
it's
know.
still going on.
Right.
but yeah.
After 2 beers, that changes.
Yeah.
The rules change. Okay.
Yeah, but then what I mean is like then everybody's consciousness could like morph into someone else. You know, it's like I could be you, and I could be him, and he could be me, and it would all just be this like almost like a field of like random points of view changing all the time. But the fact that I'm stuck in me from this vantage point, from this perspective, from my brain only, shows me that there's some sort of external thing. There's something else. There's not just us. There's something else that's mapping my consciousness, my perception to me. There's like a mapping. There's some kind of mapping system.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, let me
what I mean?
argue it. Well, I understand what you're saying, but if I could argue this for a couple.
No, this
Sure,
is
go
cool.
ahead. Take
Yeah,
it.
I wanna
I'm
hear it.
done. I'm done now.
Go
I don't
for it.
have any points that I want to make. So you can go.
Well, yeah, but I don't see why you couldn't, because besides religious, say we remove that part of it, then how could you possibly say that there is something else coming into your consciousness, or there's a reason I believe these, or something besides you just taking in everything else that comes from around you and what you've been taught and everything else? Just like ChatGPT, it's been taught, it's been fed things, you've been fed things, and so
inputs.
inputs. So, for example, if you were in some tribal colony in Brazil, something like that, never met anybody else, it's like you would sort of have the ideas and expectations that their culture has, right? Mm-hmm. So it has nothing to do with your brain at that point. You're getting everything from society.
It's the nature of the inputs. So, for
Yeah, but
example,
does
say
that
you were
make sense,
deaf.
or no?
Say you were deaf. Okay, you lacked one of the senses that feeds me and makes me me. If I had lost my hearing at birth, or I just never used auditory input, would I have a slightly different version of what is Eric?
Of course.
Well, that's why I think what I'm doing is I'm supporting him, is that if the AI system has a unique set of inputs because of when it was developed, who developed it, who's asking it questions, what its exposure to the world is, it might identify itself, even if falsely, to itself differently than Grok would.
Of course. Of course.
So the idea is, without even bringing it, and what I like is, I've always told people we're not going to get into politics, but we are getting
Oh,
really
no. It doesn't have to
we're not-
get
no,
political.
I'm not
No, it
going to.
doesn't.
But
No.
we are sort of on the verge of like the religion. You know what I mean?
No, stop.
And I don't want people to misinterpret.
It's not religious.
No. What I'm doing is I'm
No, but
actually
I-
setting the record straight. Like that. I'm just talking.
I get
technical.
I get what you're saying. It's like it doesn't have to do anything with religion, but we're
Right.
trying to have like a detailed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Detailed-
There's a bug.
Careful, it's
there was a
sentient.
bug. But we're trying to have like an actual like argument, or
Right.
at least disagreement and conversation about something very important.
Right.
And it's
Right.
it's easy.
It's existential.
Well, it's easy based on previous viewpoints. If you are a religious person, or if you have some negative views on AI, it's easy to go to one camp.
You're right.
It's like it's
No
that's
camp.
what I'm not trying to do.
Right, me
I'm
either.
just
Me
trying to. Right.
Me either. I think you guys might think that I'm trying to get
No,
religious
no,
about this, but I'm
no,
not.
I think
I'm
we're
not.
all on.
I think we're on the same page. I want to
Yeah.
clarify to anybody who is just like, say, tuning in and got the feeling that we were moving in some direction with some plan or something.
No.
We're not. It's just that these questions are so difficult to answer, because a lot of this has to be based on like personal experience and like supposition, like we're kind of guessing, because I don't know how you think inside of you, and you don't know how
Right.
I think inside of me. We can only sort of detect what we think their character is, or like
or
how they
what
go
they're
through
actually
things.
thinking inside
Right.
their brain.
Through
Everybody
outs-
lies to each other
Right.
all the time.
You even lie to yourself sometimes. And
Yeah.
so it's like, all we can do is use the external manifestations of what's going on in your head to try to analyze what might be sort of going on in your head in a very loose sense. That's probably the closest we can get. But I think what it means is that if we look at AI as being much more and more capable of imitating some of the functionality of the human brain and its input systems, often duplicating a lot of our own systems, which is hearing and sight and taste and sound and touch, and all of these things can be coded and data can be sent into them. There's a lot of similarities there. So you can imagine that there might be some similarities in the development of human consciousness, like it does in the womb, and then eventually, as a baby is born and grows and becomes familiar with its environment, as they're developing that sense of self, that sense of individual identity, it seems to me like it's plausible that an AI system, as we improve it and as it's developing, will reach some point where it might think of itself. It might identify itself as separate from the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was kind of getting at. It's like the whole concept
I get
of
that,
Yeah.
of we're messing with things that are pretty big and fundamental to what makes us us.
Right. So I think that, yes, you're absolutely right, that it will be self-reflective and be able to think, see from itself and all that. Absolutely. I just think that there is an extra thing that makes humans that an AI could never have. That's the only thing that I'm trying to say. Because we don't know why we are us.
Right.
We don't know why is my brain firing and I'm seeing things from this perspective and not yours.
Right.
Right? It's the same thing that's
Right.
happening up there. So there's something that's mapping my
Okay.
consciousness point to me.
Wait,
and
wait.
that's the thing that is so interesting to me.
Well, I totally agree. But do you think AI could be able to completely replicate that, though?
Not completely.
Falsely.
Not
Falsely.
completely.
Oh, falsely.
Yeah,
Okay.
falsely.
Complete.
So if AI is not the same as humans, right? I'm agreeing that it's not the same.
Yeah.
But it couldn't falsely do the exact same thing and replicate it fully.
Well, it could replicate how our brains work and how the neurons and all of that processing works.
Right.
So it could probably have, from somebody looking at the AI, it would behave just like a human being. But I think it would still lack that origin point of consciousness that we have.
Okay. Say it lacked the origin point.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, because I don't think either of us knows sort of what that means. But say it was able to replicate and everything, and you wouldn't be able to find any dissimilarities between AI and humans at that point. Once it got to that point, then what would be the real difference besides the origin? It's like if it acts,
Just that. That's it.
yeah, but if it acts and does and behaves in the same exact ways that humans do, then what's really the difference?
I think I have an answer to that. It becomes much less of a moral or existential question, because if it is really just a great copy of what we do, but it's a machine,
Yeah. That's what I think.
and it lacks sort of a self-awareness, like I am me,
Right,
I
it
am
can
ChatGPT.
emulate that.
It can make
Yeah.
us
But it-
think it
yeah,
does.
but it doesn't
But
really.
it doesn't. Then the moral
Right.
issues become less. There still may be very important
Yeah.
social issues and everything, how we're moving, but I think it does remove the moral question.
Yeah.
As a, sort of a sideways, you're not just talking about the three of us, but what if we had a dog here?
Mm-hmm.
What if we had a mouse here? Would we think that the best
I
AI
know
could
where
do
you're
is duplicate those creatures' behaviors and functions? But that dog that kind of knows it's a dog, like a dog kind of like is self-aware. They know what they
Yeah.
want. Okay. So even simpler animals than us, simpler minds than us, still have an ability to do something ultimately, which is self-awareness or like identity, that the AI system would never be able to truly, not imitate, but truly recreate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Although I wouldn't say it in that way.
Okay.
but that's, I guess, yeah, I could.
It isn't just human, basically. It's all sentient creatures.
Yeah, all
have
sentient creatures, I think, have a certain origin point of consciousness that an AI could never have.
Okay.
I do think that.
Okay, well,
and it has
actually-
nothing to do with like religion or anything
No.
like that.
No.
It just has to do with the idea of, again, me not knowing why I am me, right?
Right.
Because I can't prove that, I could be you, I could be him, it's like there's a third thing. It's like there's another thing there, I think. And so I think that, the AI could get super advanced. It could get very self-reflective. It could, mimic us or animals or whatever in the best way possible, but it will never be fully alive, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
You know?
actually, I have a couple of questions here. Thanks.
And if anybody
Sunny.
else has questions from
Thanks,
the
Sonny.
outside, there's obviously more than 3 people involved in this conversation. So please,
Yeah, and I'll go back to the chat. But would you say that, say, a mouse here that say was running off?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If there was a mouse on the table, would you be willing to unalive it?
Well, I wouldn't want to, but I mean, if
Well,
guess
it's
if it was
grossing you
coming
out.
at us,
Why not?
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
why not? Why wouldn't you
Right.
just, and like without any thought?
besides it
Well,
being
because it
gross,
probably has
you know.
feelings. It could hurt.
Okay. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you would apply that to a mouse.
Yes. Right.
Okay. What about an insect?
Yeah, I see where you're going with
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Well,
I
yeah.
know
follow
where you're
the
going
lead.
with this.
Right.
I know
Follow
where
the
you're
lead.
going,
I
but
know.
an AI
Yeah.
could pretend to be hurt, but it would never truly be hurt.
No,
It wouldn't.
That I totally get, because if it's like my computer here, if
Yeah.
it pretended to be sentient and I smashed it to bits,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
right,
care.
right,
at all.
right.
Versus a mouse that might
Yeah.
suffer pain or
Right,
something like that.
right.
That I get, but you're obviously putting mouse sentience lesser than human sentience.
Right.
Right, but then what's the difference there? Is it just because it's
Well, because, of course, it has less advanced, its brain is smaller, so it has less nerve endings, so it probably doesn't hurt as bad
right? Okay,
as it
so,
would to a human.
So it's biological. That it has to be biological stuff. So as long as it's biological, then it has some sort of more moral value than something that is technical.
That is technical. Right.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the interesting
Okay.
things, Sabine brought this up. She said if there was a spider on the table, it's like, I don't like spiders, and but I don't really want to squish it. I mean, I'd rather put it outside. Like I don't want it
Well,
here.
I think that's just because of the grossness.
Well,
But okay.
but she distinguished that, and it was
Oh, okay.
interesting. She said, "Yeah, but I don't want to kill it. It's like, and there is this natural feeling, like
Okay.
being living beings. We sort of have a compatibility or camaraderie with other living beings to say, if I could get it out of here, I would feel that way too. If I could get it safely out of here, I'd prefer that to squishing it. If I wanted that out of here, there is something in me that says, don't kill a living thing. Like I feel bad about that.
I don't think you do, because you know how many flies you've had in the barn where you don't want them out. You
I-
want them.
I've
You
been-
want to unalive
I've
them
been
as
in
much as
tears.
humanly
I've been in
possible.
tears for weeks. Yeah, right.
No,
Right, but
that's not true. You obviously differentiate like the different levels of biological complexity. I guess is the way that you would
Right.
say.
Oh, yeah. I'm not
So it's like
disagreeing.
if
I'm
it's
just
a
saying.
cat versus a fly,
Right.
You're obviously going to unalive the fly, like almost all the time,
Unless
not a
the
cat.
cat is a threat. See, then we change the rules. We say, okay, I'll unalive the guy who's going to knife my wife, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I
well,
won't feel
you'll take
bad
him
about
out.
it at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, of
But the
course.
thing is, it's a different thing where it's kind of like it's an arbitrary, like an unnecessary move.
Well, I don't think it's
to hurt-
arbitrary.
to-
How is
to
that
hurt the-
arbitrary?
No. What I meant is, it like the spider. Like if you had 2 choices, you could safely remove it from the environment, or you could kill it. I would say most people would say I'd rather it not be there. I don't take joy or pleasure in removing it from the world. I would just want it removed from my table.
Sometimes,
Unless again it's a threat, and then that's a different equation because
Yeah,
it's me
okay.
versus it. But I think that the concept that you bring up is kind of interesting because there's even some thought that the human brain involves quantum, like some of the quantum states, where it becomes so deep, what we think is just chemical interfaces between neurons and the individual like pathways within the brain that allow us to think and perceive and sense, actually don't just go down to the number of neurons and the number of processes, that there may actually be quantum effects that are almost unimaginably deep. They go so deep that the computer system is always just a superficial on-off transistor, while
Sure.
we may, in fact, be able to make distinctions at 10 to the 35th, levels
Well,
of
that wasn't
distinction.
my point,
But
but
that's
yeah,
a point that's
okay.
been made, is that what
Sure.
makes intelligence like different than the imitation of intelligence with a computer is that there may be quantum effects involved. And it's again, I don't know enough about like quantum computing.
You know more
other
than I do.
Well,
And
I don't know as
I'm
much
not
as some
trying to-
people out
yeah,
there, and I'm
yeah.
sure we'll get some comments and some criticisms. But the whole concept of intelligence is difficult because we're kind of arguing from within an intelligent environment about intelligence. It's hard, we can't stand away from it
Yeah.
and look at ourselves from a third hand. We have to look within ourselves to try to see how are the machines working.
Yeah.
And
Well-
that's why the ethics.
There are, like near-death experiences, where people have died and they've been brought back.
Right.
And they say that their consciousness does not cease to exist. Instead, their consciousness floats above them. It starts floating away, and they can actually see
Right.
themselves. They can see the other people in the room. And it's like, I'd be inclined to think that wasn't real if it was just one report of that.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that all agree that happens.
Yeah.
And so that shows that that point of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
is not necessarily just the chemicals happening in our brains.
Right.
It's something separate that's
Right.
being mapped onto our particular brain. You know what I mean?
20 years ago, I would have thought, based on my medical background and everything,
Yeah.
that was all the fantasy of like, you're disoriented, you're confused, you have weird memories of things. I would have said that back then. Now, I have to say, I'm not so sure. But
Yeah.
I'm sort of coming around to the idea there may be more to it than we realize, and I'm open to sort of like suggestions as to justifying or explaining why that would be consistent with what we see as the normal universe around us and the normal environment around us. There may be more to it than that.
And I've seen similar things, Paul, where where some older people, they're on their last legs and everything, and they say that they see things and all that sort of stuff. They either get better or they get worse, but they still saw those things that you're talking about, like
Kind of like the near-death thing.
yeah. And you're like,
I think that's more due to just like the biological, breakdown of their brain as they're aging.
well, isn't that the same thing as?
No, I'm talking
the
about a
difference?
near-death experience where the brain actually isn't working, but consciousness still continues to exist after that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think it is a different thing, but I see why you're saying what you're saying.
Because to me, it seems very similar.
It's a very similar phenomenon, but it's from different reasons. Okay, it's a different causes.
Parallel
Sure.
results, from different sources.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you say that both of those are reasonable, then if the one that you're bringing up is like potentially true, then why wouldn't the other one be true?
It could be. Both could be
don't know.
true. I don't think I don't think they're either or. I think it could be that might be related just to the breakdown of the system and delirium and loss of memory and everything. It's possible. It's also possible that it ties into what you're talking about, which is something that we just don't understand. We don't have an idea of what's going on. An interesting thing too is the AI systems learning. See, that's part of the reason that I think a lot of people, me included, get a little nervous with AI is because they've done studies on human brains, both with MRI and with postmortem dissection, in people with different professions or different living conditions, like, say, piano players. And they will find certain areas of the brain are more active at that time. And I think they use PET scans for that. Actually, like, it measures sort of biological activity in an area when you're doing something, and they'll, fill out graphs, and people do this awake, or, as I said, MRIs or postmortem. So piano players, for example, can be often identified because they've developed more interconnects and more robust interconnects between areas of the body that control the fingers and the ear and the, those parts of the brain that integrate that. So it's like, if AI systems, as they become more and more tied in and become faster, they can potentially modify themselves. From a programming point of view, you'd think, well, that would be great. They'd become more efficient and, more capable without wasting their time on functions that are so rarely used that they're unimportant. And so I think the development of the whole idea of, like, not only the singularity, but self-awareness, sentience, consciousness, that also may be influenced by the experiences of the AI. If we expose it to enough human activity, human beings, they will start to develop those areas that make them more and more like us. And therefore, it's going to be harder to detect them. But it also may start to bridge some of these questions that we're talking about with respect to, is consciousness more than just the neural interconnects? The AI system may figure that out, may learn that, may develop it just naturally with use.
Yeah, whether it's true or not, if it actually believes that or not. Yeah.
Right. Or we can figure out if it does or it's just lying to us.
Yeah, okay. So since we had that good conference, I think it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I
That
like
was a
it.
really
We
good
could
debate.
go on for a while with this, and
I
I don't know if anybody else would be.
I
interested.
think this is probably one of the best streams thus far.
and not
if
just
not the
because
best.
you're
Yeah.
involved in it.
No, no. I
no.
genuinely just
No, I
discussion.
actually, no, I agree. Because I like having debates, like fruitful, like fun debates. I like.
Yeah, because if everybody agrees, then it's just a presentation. It's a lecture, and some of these things are things that I'm just sort of coming up with now, but I've been kind of dealing with this as I've been thinking about this topic for a while. This is a big deal when we can get into these discussions and not really reach a conclusion that everybody says, oh, yeah, now I understand. Kind of like a program that works, or you've debugged and it's functioning. But when we're getting into these where it's like, well, I don't know, then there's going to be a million opinions about this.
Sure. Yeah.
Come
Okay.
on.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we
I
got
was
it.
kind of thinking I was going to wind up the video because I think...
We're not done with the
Oh, we're not.
programs.
Oh,
yet.
okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I thought, we were just trying to...
No, I pulled up aspirin
Oh,
up here.
okay.
Okay, thanks.
Let's get away from the heavy for a little while then.
Yeah. So aspirin, and it's 17, right?
Yeah. 17, aspirin 17.
So do you want to
what
say
this
something
is-
beforehand? Yeah.
Yeah, what this aspirin game is. So, back in my middle school and high school days, we used to use TI graphing calculators, and it's like I know
I
that
use
my
them.
brother, yeah, he's familiar with them. We both used to play a lot of games on those calculators, right? Probably when we shouldn't have been.
TI-84. Yeah.
Yeah, the TI-83 Plus, and then the TI-84 and the
That's the one
TI-84
that I
Plus.
used. Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of you have used that, so put something in the chat to say that, yeah, I've used that too. But
Well, actually, just briefly, an interesting thing about those calculators, they actually have a real CPU in them. They're not just like an Arduino, like a microcontroller or something like that. It's an actual CPU. It's called the Z80 microprocessor, which is what the x86 architecture, which we base all of our new computers on, it's based off of that. So it's from a company called Zilog. And I think it's like the only thing that's still keeping that company alive, because there's not really any other need for Z80 CPUs. They're so esoteric, but they
Yeah.
use them in those graphing calculators.
Huh.
But it was
So-
Texas Instruments
Yeah.
that bought them from them, or
Yeah, Texas Instruments makes the calculators, but I don't believe they make the actual CPUs.
okay, they
It's
bought
made
them
by
from some-
Zilog.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah. Although Zilog could be owned by TI, I don't know. Anyway,
So-
the point here is that there's a game for those graphing calculators called Aspirin, and I decided to make a better version of it for desktop, PC, right? And so this is the game.
Did you use AI?
I
in
did
some-
not use any AI to make this.
Wow.
I made this game like 3, maybe even 4 years ago,
Okay.
and I didn't use any AI.
All right.
So
Well, I'll run it. Okay, you guys aren't going to be able to see this part. Okay, now you can see it.
yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
I'm
bottom's
using-
cut off a little bit.
Yeah.
So what the object of the game is, let me briefly go through this. You collect the balls. Okay, you see he's going for that red ball right there. Now he's going for the blue one or the cyan one. Now see what happens is when you collect a red ball, you get an arrow aiming downward at the same X position every single time, and it just keeps looping
I
at that
hate
same position. Okay?
This is the
Then you get
worst.
another ball, and it's looping horizontally at the same position. So you see the arrows that are coming across this. That's the death sound.
That's what happens when you lose.
Yeah. And see, it shows wasted, and it shows 40s.
play again.
2 40s. See the 40s, Frank?
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah,
saw
from
the 40s.
Deus Ex.
Yeah,
From
right.
Deus Ex.
Yeah, if anybody has played Deus Ex or Deus
Yeah,
Ex, they would know what the 40s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Inside joke.
Yeah, we used to love playing Deus Ex, that game, and so I added the 40s to waste it at the end of this game. But anyway, so the point is the arrows keep shooting in the same exact place every single time. So it's much more of a strategy game than it is an action game, but there are some action elements still in it. And you find if you play with the mouse, Frank, it's much easier.
No, I'm using
Okay,
the
okay.
keyboard.
And take it slow. You don't have to
No.
go fast.
Safe.
Oh, you did it. That was good.
Oh man, this is.
Oh wow. Wow.
I hate.
See,
this.
he's that little yellow smiley face right
Yeah,
there
yeah.
that's moving around, okay?
What was the?
That was the wah, wah, wah. So
Yeah, but
that
I didn't
happens when
die,
no, that's when the Pac-Man steals the ball from you.
Oh, you
okay.
have to make even harder.
But it just all okay.
Okay. Well, either way.
All
Okay, I'm not.
all
I'm-
that happens when you don't get the ball fast enough is the Pac-Man will steal it. And that's why it'll say like eaten or does some sort of noise when the Pac-Man gets the ball before you.
Right,
But it'll
okay.
just decrease your score a little bit. It doesn't make you lose the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Fair
the
enough.
point of the game is collect as many of those balls as possible, ensure that those Pac-Men don't eat them from you,
Yeah.
and avoid the arrows that are shooting at you.
But you did that all in pure basic.
All in pure basic.
and
yeah.
how long do you think that took you?
Well, I probably worked on it like an hour a day, maybe 2 hours, probably more like an hour to 2 hours a day for like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a significant amount of time to build a relatively simple game.
Yeah, and it's like I probably could have done it faster than that, but see, it's like I was designing the game as I was writing the game. It's
Oh.
like I didn't pre-design. See, the
and you
game.
didn't have AI at that point.
Right, I also didn't have AI.
Right.
See, the thing is on the graphing calculator, it's so simple, right? All it is there's one ball that you have to collect, and it's all black and white. There's just a black ball and a white ball. And it's like you go around and collect that, and the little spots start moving down. So there's no detail or anything fun about it, right? I mean, it's still kind of fun, but anyway,
It was fun.
the window. No, I'm talking about the calculator version of this
Oh, okay.
game isn't so fun. But this Windows version of the game, I improved a lot on it. There's like a lot more in there. And so that's why, it took a while. It wasn't just a clone of a game. It was me coming up with, I'm going to add the Pac-Man to it.
Right.
I'm going to also add 2 balls instead of there just being 1 ball. I'm also going to add the little bonus. So you didn't play it long enough to see there's a little raspberry that appears every now and again. And if you get the raspberry, you get a lot of points. And then if you play the game even longer, you'll get a shield. There will be a little shield that'll appear. And if you go get that shield, then you're impervious to the arrows. And so you can just go around the screen and collect as many balls as you want and just go super fast, go crazy, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. You know, and you were probably about halfway there, given how many arrows and how long you had played. If you had played a double that, you would have seen
And kept doing it. Yeah,
that
obviously.
stuff.
Yeah.
So it can get pretty interesting and pretty fun, despite the fact that, you know, it's very simplistic.
Basic. Yeah.
If you were somebody, say you're in college, or you know you're relatively young, you haven't picked a career yet, and you were thinking, you know, programming, I like doing it. What do you think would be the most rewarding for the least amount of effort to kind of get into programming? Would it be to like take on projects like little games? Or what would be sort of the field that you would recommend somebody to mess around with to get enough exposure they can decide, I like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting off, like, to try to get somebody into programming, or if they're thinking about getting into programming, it's like, I think starting with games is a really good thing, you know, because it's exciting, it's interesting, it also tests your skills a lot. You know, instead of just doing something really dry, like, you know, writing a compression algorithm or something like that, right? It's like maybe an encryption algorithm, that could be fun, actually, if you're like a real nerd. Could be fun. But I think for most people, it's like, you know, making games. You know, that's the thing.
Plus, you'd get immediate feedback. Like, say you did that, and you put in the time, and you made a game.
Yeah.
You could show somebody that, you know, this is what I just did.
Right.
And you get the feedback, and everybody's like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, you know, like you said, a compression algorithm. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Right. Just like being a musician, right?
Yeah.
You know, it can make you, like, so much more popular than, you know, being a programmer or whatever. And the reason why is because people can appreciate that stuff, and they don't have to understand it. It's just, like, innate.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Actually, that's another interesting thing, is about how music is like this innate language that's just automatically programmed into us, and it's like we don't even know where it comes from.
Yeah, that is weird when you think about it, because, like, I'm not going to get back the heaviness, but it's like even the most primitive tribes still have music.
Yeah.
And when you listen to music, like, generally speaking, if it's a popular song, most people, like a lot of people, like it.
Right.
And they
get the same feeling
They get
from
the
it.
same feeling. It's sad, it's happy.
Yeah.
It's like it induces in us some commonality in the way we think, and but it's a language.
Yeah.
You know, it is kind of interesting. Yeah, it is a lot like music.
Yeah.
I wonder if programmers have a lot in common with, like, say, composers. You know, when you think about it?
Yeah. I mean, I was saying that, like, specifically making games, you know, that allows you to be more like a musician, where you can show people and they actually appreciate, versus, you know, making an algorithm or something like that.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, I think there are parallels between music and programming. It's a similar kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I think actually very similar. Like, if you had to pick another profession that is similar to programming, I don't think I could pick a better one than a composer or a musician.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if, like, you know, if you went to a music school or something like that, or something, you know, everybody's into music.
Yeah.
If you showed them programming stuff, would they pick up on it faster or be more interested in it than, say, a bunch of, I don't know, like, say, engineers or lawyers or, you know, something like that?
Actually, I think I've noticed, you know, this would be a question to ask ChatGPT, actually.
Yeah.
But I think I've actually noticed that a lot of programmers tend to be able to play a musical instrument on the side. Like, I've just sort of noticed this over the years, that, you know, there are a lot of programmers that can play guitar, or they can play piano or whatever. And usually they're not professionals or anything like that, but they can do it.
It kind of makes sense, though, because, like, especially if you were playing the piano, you're having to learn a bunch of different keys and tapping on the keyboard and learning, you know, different...
Some of the rules. It's a rule-based language. Like, it's not just random sounds. It's like there are chords, and certain chords work, and then there's rhythm, and it's like you're overlapping certain rules of, like, you have to maintain the rhythm, or if you're going to change it, it's a distinct point where you're changing it, and at the same time, there's the motor skills. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Was there anything else that, Eric, you had?
I've covered, like, the heavy stuff. I really don't want us to get into the downside of this. I actually wanted, you know, Paul's, you know, willingness to participate here. is to get people like involved in the AI. I don't want to like get too heavy with this. I really want people to sort of like get excited enough about it that
Okay.
they want to learn more about it.
All right, that sounds good. And then we'll talk about your So what I can do, I'm guessing, if anybody wants to check out Paul's, programs and website and everything else, we can put that into the description. So if you want to email him,
Yeah, there will be. We'll put either in the description of the video or as like a pinned comment or something like that.
Yeah.
A way to contact me. You could also just see. I have a website. Okay, it's DOSAIDSOFT.com. DOSAIDSoft. Okay?
And we'll put that in the description so you don't have to write.
Yeah. And so you can contact me on my website, but I've had a problem recently where these Russians are taking over my site and they're posting
no.
a bunch of spam. There's spam everywhere, and I can't seem to get rid of it. Okay, and so what happens is near the end of the month, they cause me to exceed my bandwidth limit, and so my site goes down. So it's not always up anymore. But the thing is I'll fix it. I'll get around to fixing it. But yeah, you can try to contact me at my site, okay, DOSAIDSOFT.com, or in the description of this video. And I might be looking in the future for beta testers on a much more advanced game, a much more fun game, much more interesting stuff. So if you're interested in that, you could contact me. Also, any ideas, if you just have questions or ideas for me, let me know.
Yeah,
and
treat
I'll
it
get
like a
back to you.
chat that he can read. Like I read the chat and, come back with further questions, but that way it gets directly to him rather than through me and then, the confusion. So I think that's a good idea.
And the description that is there right now will change. So don't
Yeah, so it
rely
won't.
on-
Yeah, it won't be there right now. We're gonna have to change it after the video because
Yeah.
we didn't do it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that'll be fun if you get some people who are willing to like try it or
Yeah,
watch it.
yeah.
I try your
Yeah.
and are you gonna actually one question?
Night
are you
Watch, I want to talk.
Are you gonna provide the like source code, or is it just
I don't think so. Not
No.
not for this one. I'm thinking about the Night Watch game. Do you remember that game?
no?
That's
I
the game
remember
on
the
the
name.
island. Remember that 3D
Oh,
game with
yes.
the VR? I
Yeah.
added
I
VR.
thought you used Unity.
Yes, I did use
Oh,
Unity.
okay.
It is
Then
Unity.
I do. Yeah,
Which is
okay.
C#, by the way.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
So, so I made a Unity game, and it's not done. It's probably only about like 25% of the way through. But, see, I kind of like retro arcadey style games. It's not that I only can do that. I'm capable of a lot more as well. And I've done a 3D VR game in Unity, and it's set on this island. And it almost kind of reminds me of the game Myst from
Yeah.
a long time ago. There was Myst and Riven. By the way, they remade Riven recently. It's really good. But anyway,
They made a VR version. Too.
yeah.
I like that one.
Okay. So you've actually played that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I showed it to you a long
you-
time ago, like maybe 6-8 months ago.
Okay. Because I remember getting it myself and checking it out myself.
Oh,
But I
okay.
didn't
Yeah,
know that
no,
you
but
did.
I played it. Yeah.
Okay, that's
it's,
cool.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game is extremely difficult, but the art in that game is the most incredible like video game art that I've ever seen in my life. And I'm talking about Riven, if you don't know what we're talking about. It's like that game is so good. But anyway, so the island in my Night Watch game is kind of like Myst. And it's like there's this windmill and a boat dock and all that. Anyway, the point of the game is going to be that you're this guy that gets a job as a night watchman, okay, on this deserted kind of island, right? And there's this old boat dock area that they're using for storage, okay? And so you get a job, they ship you out there on a ship, and they basically say, okay, watch over the boat dock, make sure nobody comes here and takes the stuff, all that. You stay there for a while, and then, like, weird stuff starts happening, okay?
Squids.
So, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can't
Yeah.
reveal too much.
No.
Yeah.
We won't say anymore. But That sounds cool. So
Yeah.
we'll get to that right away, like tonight.
Yeah, so
the
we'll update
description.
we'll update the description, put the emails and website links and whatever is necessary. So whenever you guys can take a look at that, that'll be good.
Yeah.
And next week we're not going to be going live because this is not a usual thing that we do.
Yeah.
But next time we do have a video, then we'll go live. 6 hours later.
That evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and hopefully that'll be soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I
Well,
think it was.
I think it was fun.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
It was fun.
Had some disagreements, and some people didn't like it, and some people did. So
Yeah, and the only reason we would ever come on next Saturday is if there's some huge event, some technological like breakthrough or some disaster or something
Yeah,
like that.
but, we're
where we
not
might.
planning
But
on
that's hopefully nothing happens. But no, don't plan. Don't plan on seeing us.
just one last thing could I mention?
sure.
I mentioned to Doc, okay, I mentioned to him that maybe it would be more advantageous to have our live stream nights shifted to Sunday at 6 p.m. instead of Saturday. Given that, Saturday night, it's like people tend to be out and, doing stuff. Whereas, Sunday
Okay.
night, there's not that much going on. And it's like, it's early enough as well that if people have work the following day, it's still all right.
It's a good point, and I asked him another question or brought up another point. We had a problem when we did our last live stream following a very long video, the one that we did with respect to the wine improvement with the vacuum distillation. And people could barely finish watching it from the time we released it to the time we did the live stream. And so what I think would be useful is people could give us some feedback if they think that a Sunday night might be better than a Saturday night, even though we always release our videos on Saturdays, or if they like the day.
Right.
And we'll take that and decide if that makes sense.
That was another point that I made, is that not only is it more convenient for timing for them, because
Yeah.
of work and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
also because they get a lot more time to watch the video
Right.
and think about it and all that,
Right.
instead of, it comes out at noon and then 6 p.m. is when you go on doing the live stream. That's assuming you have a really dedicated audience.
Yeah, right. Especially because
like-
they're going to be spending all their time on YouTube with our channel on Saturdays. That
Yeah.
may be kind of a little bit much. Let's think about it. But if you give us some feedback and
Yeah.
we get a lot of negative or positive, we might make that change. So appreciate your feedback on that. Thanks.
You could
Yeah,
do a poll.
That would, and I was trying to do that just now, but I can't do it right now.
Okay.
But that is a good idea. So
Okay.
yeah, just let us know in your comments and everything what you think is better. So
Yeah.
we'll decide based on what everybody thinks.
Yeah, very good.
All right. So thanks everybody for watching, and thanks for the comments. And hopefully this was a good live stream and you appreciated it. So
We enjoy doing it. So
Yeah.
see you later.
yeah,
See
well-
ya.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.